Okay, is it working now? Okay, it is working now. Okay. The video broadcast has screwed me again. Sorry, that was... Apparently, NVIDIA Broadcast decided arbitrarily to change the input. Well, I guess it wasn't arbitrary. There was a Windows update. It's always a Windows update. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, that's why I didn't expect there to be an issue, because I haven't done anything, but apparently Windows decided to do an update again, so, well. Classic Windows. I'd meant to do something as well that I kind of forgot to do, and I apologize for that. Let me dial this down just a little bit and see if that sounds a little bit better. I had meant to make a couple little changes to audio, just some tiny tweaks, so hopefully it should be a little bit less peaky now. Yeah, that seems fine. So, let me think. How are we going to do this? I was kind of debating, because I was a little frustrated that the game is kind of saying, I'm sorry, you can't do any of the options because you haven't actually gotten any of them. Which is insane, because I didn't imagine that I could do more than I have done at this point. I don't know, like, I guess I needed to get, like, Torp level 3, Destructor level 3. I guess I needed to, like, do full completion on all of my combat stats in order to be able to actually get the combat thing. And apparently I needed to have 75 Borg or whatever, or 100, or I forget what the count was, or whatever, in order to be able to do the choice that allows me to actually use the transwarp hub. So that's really frustrating for me. That being said, I think what I decided to do is I'm going to try to take the ending that was given to me, and then upon completion of the ending that was given to me, I'm going to see if we can do the ending that would require me to basically just wait around and upgrade my ship repeatedly, which I might be able to do. This is probably going to be a shorter session, simply because... What? Huh? Ah, yes. This is probably going to be a shorter session, simply because I had to end where I had to end where I was yesterday, so that I could do something that was scheduled and enjoy something that was scheduled. And I had intended to go that length until that time, which was no problem for me. I wanted to. It just kind of, it unfortunately ended up working out that way. I don't think that it will be terribly problematic or anything. Because I'll make additional content if I have to, right? If it ends up being like 30 minutes, I'll make another hour. I can do that. We'll probably test some of the other endings, is what will end up happening. And then it'll probably be like 1 to 2 hours, and then that'll be it for the finale episode. So how do we go about transwarp destroying the HUD? Yeah. Disabling enough manifolds would collapse it, but the Queen's shielding and adaptation make direct assault problematic. Sounds to me like it's time for a Hail Mary pass. So, yeah, I heard it's a pretty good movie. Yeah. I don't know anything about it, but I hear it's a good movie. I guess Tom Paris is a fan. An unconventional high-risk, potentially high-yield stratagem. One such option exists, transphasic torpedoes. I didn't know that Ryan Gosling knew how to make transphasic torpedoes, but hell yeah. Modified to detonate simultaneously within the hub's primary energy conduits, bypassing external shielding and triggering a cascading internal implosion. You gotta generate an implosion. However, the resultant shockwave would be extensive. Voyager would have approximately 10 seconds to clear the blast radius post-detonation. Captain, I believe I can offer a solution to mitigate that particular hazard. A targeted neurolytic pathogen. If we infect the Queen and thereby the transwarp network, her control over the hub's functions would be severely compromised, meaning a less potent implosion, perhaps. Instead of outrunning the shockwave, what if we could ride it? Use its force to propel us through the collapsing hub and out the other side straight to the Alpha Quadrant. Okay, so this is answering a question that I had a concern over, which was the impression that I was getting from when we ended last time was that if I didn't have any of the requisites to do the other options that were presented to me by Rallick, the not bad Borg guy, my impression was that failure to be able to do so would mean that we couldn't go through the transwarp hub and we would instead have to slow boat it all the way, or not slow boat it, but, you know, relatively speaking, slow boat it back to the Alpha Quadrant. You know, it always... I'm sorry. I know I'm like 6 sessions late to be... I'm 6 or 7 sessions too late to be commenting on this. But I always thought it interesting that they talk about going back to the Alpha Quadrant. Because when you think about it, I don't know if you've ever seen a map of Star Trek before. But Earth isn't really in the Alpha Quadrant, per se. It's like at a 0-0 point between like the Alpha and the Beta Quadrant. Let me double check that. I'm 99% sure that's true. Star Trek map. Yeah. Yeah, so the United Federation of Planets is located literally on the through line, basically, of the Alpha and the Beta Quadrant. So going back to the Alpha Quadrant is not... It's kind of like they keep saying it, but it's not. You're not really going to the Alpha Quadrant. You're going to the Alpha/Beta Quadrant. It's a minor thing to nitpick over. It's kind of just, it's one of those things that's kind of interesting, like terminology-wise, that they always refer to it as the Alpha Quadrant, as like the place that they're in, but they're not in the Alpha Quadrant. They're in the Alpha and Beta Quadrant, both. The whole bottom half of the galaxy, basically, like is centered, like the UFP is in the center of the through line of the Alpha and the Beta Quadrant and the bottom of the Milky Way galaxy. So I don't know. That's just a random nitpick to for time. We gotta stretch this one out. This is a filler episode for like the first half of it until we actually kill the Borg Queen, okay? There is, however, one complication. The pathogen would need a carrier, someone to deliver it to the Queen via assimilation, a sacrifice. There will be no sacrifice. The thing is, while I would like to say we shouldn't do that, that's a bad idea, there is a person who would sacrifice themselves and is here to do precisely that, and her name is Admiral Janeway. Because again, I've seen the series and I know what's technically canonically supposed to happen. I'm going to condemn it because that's what I should be doing. There will be no sacrifice. We'll go with the initial plan and just dodge that shockwave. I didn't spend years planning this just for you to throw it all away in some idealistic intergalactic goodwill mission. This isn't a strategy, it's a death sentence. I won't stand by while you condemn them to my past. Sorry. Admiral has confined herself to quarters and refuses to communicate. A moment's peace, then. New priorities: fabricate more transphasic torpedoes, optimize all defense and offensive systems, and we confront the Queen, destroy the hub, and escape the blast. Sitting alone in her quarters, Admiral Janeway watches the dark space outside her window, a knock at her door in a familiar voice she didn't expect to pull from her thoughts. She hesitates for a moment before opening the door to find her unexpected visitors waiting. If you're here at the behest of that insufferably principled version of me, consider your mission futile. Her naive view of morality has no place in this reality. That was a great line. Her naive view of morality has no place in this reality. I will not contribute to condemning this crew to a life of misery. No, God, guys, he's not dead. He's not dead. He just has a different name now, and he's also half Vulcan. He's not dead. If I had known that Tuvix was going to replace him entirely in the narrative, I wouldn't have gotten him in the first place. I assumed that he would have a role if you got Tuvix, and it wouldn't just be like, haha, you have a character that can do things. I'm a little salty about that, actually. At the end of this session, there will be a review where I'll bust out Notepad and we'll talk about it. I'll talk about it, I guess. I'll discuss my feelings on things. I'm sorry I clicked through that. What's the point of all this then? In our reality, you and the captain are still one and the same. She is a woman of integrity and principles, and forgive me for saying so, but you seem to have forgotten that. The Janeway we know believes in a better way, a more principled way, and that's why we follow her to the ends of the galaxy. Admiral, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. This is the only line they gave the poor man. Admiral, my very existence is a testament to the captain you were. You could have sacrificed my life to get your friends back, but you didn't. You made a decision based on principle, not expediency. Please, don't forget the woman who made that choice. Oh my god. Human B'Elanna's alive now too. I can't believe it. I rescind like 10% of my comment. We're actually getting a bookend on this. Back then, you gambled with my Klingon half's life to save me. I resented you for that, but at least you had the courage to make a difficult choice. That was a captain who didn't let fear dictate her decisions. What happened to her? Hey Chib, you saved me. You gambled on a handful of Borg children, a choice that was not logical, but compassionate. I am asking you to make that same choice again, to risk it all to stop the Borg. To save those children who have not yet had a chance at life. Okay. My only comment and concern in this regard is that Icheb is on the ship. Icheb is on the ship for like a full season or something. And I have had this poor kid in my inventory of heroes for the better part of like 30 minutes of game time before we hit Homecoming. Or sorry, Endgame, excuse me, not Homecoming. And so like, obviously this is a game where if you haven't seen the series, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, but it also kind of strikes me as being made for people who've seen the series, which is a little bit problematic in cases like this where it's like, Icheb, who are you? Like if you've never seen the series, you're like, who the heck is Icheb? Oh yeah, he's that kid. Why is he wearing a Starfleet uniform? Like, what? This is just, oh, even one gets a line. This is a simple analysis, Admiral. The hub must be destroyed. It is the only way to end the threat. Your past risk assessment would have factored in the greater good. Your current course is illogical. It is a pursuit of personal, selfish goals. When our freighter was about to explode, you risked valuable time to save me. The safety of a whole sector was on the line, but you showed compassion. Now, when the entire galaxy is in danger, I don't see that courage. What happened to it, Admiral? It's funny how there's like a line break there, randomly, and then it just kind of self-corrected. That's the second time I've seen that. The first time I kind of caught it out of the corner of my eye. This is the first time I actually physically saw it. It's not really an issue worth commenting about. It's just kind of amusing. I know I have no right to question you, Admiral, but your decision, it is exactly what Captain Ransom would have done. He chose to survive at any cost. You taught us to choose our principles. Don't let his path become yours. That's the lesson I learned from you. Admiral, look at us. We're all here because of you, because you took a risk, because you weren't afraid, because you were a woman of courage. We need that woman now. Captain Janeway needs you. Please help us. All of you. Please excuse me. I need to speak with the captain now. That was nice, though. I like that. Captain, would you join me for coffee? Admiral, I thought you gave it up. I've decided to revive a few of my old habits. Oh, what else besides the coffee? I will be your sacrifice. Excuse me? Yeah, I was going to say, this pathogen strategy, I considered it in my time, but refused it due to the sacrifice. I admit, after so many years, I'd forgotten what family truly meant. I only saw the losses, but your crew, Catherine, the way they talk about you, how loyal they are to you, they're a family. Okay, this one's fine. This is not fine. How loyal they are to you, they're a family. They showed me what I'd lost. I was wrong to try and force my broken future onto you. Let me be the sacrifice. Let my final act help preserve what you managed to keep alive here. Knowing what's at stake, and knowing our shared stubbornness, I won't try to stop you. Inform the doctor so we can prepare the neurolytic pathogen. Yeah, you weren't gonna... Yeah. It's like, fine, whatever. Very well then. To calibrate the pathogen for maximum efficiency, I will require a functioning Borg vinculum. Excuse me, 1 second. It interconnects all drones within a localized subcollective to maintain conformity. Such a device is invariably located inside the central plexus of a Borg vessel and heavily shielded. Evading detection will be nearly impossible. Every step will carry the risk of alerting the Queen. Then we'd better be resourceful. Helm, get us to the nearest Borg cube. Hey, Rallic. Hey, bud. My friend. My Borg friend. Could you guys, could you pass us a vinculum, please? You guys got one just hanging out, right? Hey, Rallic. Free Borg Collective, who are going to be helping us fight the hub. Can you guys give us a vinculum, please? Just hand it over. Yeah, we just need it for a little... It's going to help kill the Queen and maybe not destroy the transwarp hub, or maybe it will. I don't know. Yeah, just hand it over. Yeah, thanks, guys. I guess we're going to go to the Borg cube and steal one. We've reached our destination. Orders? If it wasn't evident, that was an example of a slight error in... Well, I don't want to say an error. A missing opportunity for the narratives here and the structuring of these missions and dialogues. We should have been able to just ask Rallic to give us one at this point as a reward for having, freed the Borg and created a Borg uprising. It's kind of interesting that we didn't get that opportunity for whatever reason. It's not hugely problematic or anything, it's just kind of funny. Wow, Icheb, you kind of suck. You have good abilities, I think. But my goodness, you're level 3. That's unfortunate. So we need someone who has command, which Ichib actually does have, and medical, and science and engineering. You know what? It's gonna be Pelk, I think. I think it's gotta be Pelk. Could be Tom Paris. I will go with this. Whew! We've infiltrated the cube. We have to bypass the perimeter shields to reach the central plexus. I'll show you a central plexus. Synchronized with the cube's shield modulation using advanced Borg protocols. Boink. Nice. Well done. This is why I like one. He's good at stuff. We've reached an intersection packed with dormant drones. One mistake will activate them. Use harmonics to disable nearby alcoves. Actually gonna do this one. Oh, actually, we might need him. Coordinate the team's advance. That's fine. I wanted the resources, but it's not really. Wow, thanks, Tom. You're so much better than one. He crit success. You're really killing it, bud. We've reached the maturation chamber. A drone patrols the area. Alerting it means a swarm. Vulcan. Incapacitate the drone with a Vulcan death grip. Ah, I love Star Trek. The Vulcan death grip is swift and precise. The drone collapses soundlessly and the team press on. We reach the central plexus, but the area is shielded. The vinculum is anchored to the central plexus system. Any ideas how to extract it? I press this button. That's my idea how to extract it. Though to be fair, this one's a pretty good one too. Ooh, we could fail that one. I'd take the safe choice on this one. Export deactivates the yeah. They're all max level anyways. Alright, let's go grab some resources, because we're going to be doing some upgrades. And we're going to be just killing time here. Torpedo launch bay level 2. Yippee! Yippee! Disruptor control room level 2. Automated repair unit facility. Probably stick to things that like directly involve me being better at stuff. I care about enhanced maneuvering thrusters, torpedo shield penetration, launch bay, disruptor room. Do disruptor room. Too much time in sector. Man, we're about to go home. They'll be fine. They can wait a couple cycles. All right. Analyze the training, trained mind, Voyager's equipment. Send the engineering office. Don't. Whew. Had me going there for a second. I thought you were gonna fail. That would have been unwise. I would have been slightly annoyed. And you wouldn't have liked that. Use the Bussard collector. The Bussard. X button. A Borg cube is attacking us. He's cloaking. Torpedo launch bay is upgraded. Yippee! Yippee! Oh, it does a lot more damage now, actually. Maybe that's why it felt like the torpedoes never did anything, because I never upgraded them. And so they genuinely weren't doing anything. Because they were, like, severely out of where they were supposed to be. Really? Sick? You're kidding, right? Actually, on that note, Mr. Paris. You're not assigned to anything, Pelk? Mr. Paris, if you would kindly do things and stuff in the place of the things and stuff. Where's that destructor room? Okay, the ARU facility cannot be assigned. Dorkin shield matrix. Destructor array control room, however, can be assigned to somebody. The other phaser? I don't care that much about it. I don't know, is there anything that I can assign him to? Give him a job that's not quite as useless? 22% protection. Fine. Pelk, you're just gonna hang out there, I guess. Oh, I can assign... No, that's security. Star cartography. Workshop. Transporter room. An efficiency bonus. Increases hero skills in away missions? Really? Boy, I wish that I had checked that, like, 6 sessions ago. 6 or 7 sessions ago. Oops. My bad. Anyways, we're gonna time kill here. Spend too much time in sector. You'll get over it. Use the bustard. I shouldn't have actually done that. Use the tractor beam to get metal. Uranium specifically. Yippee! Let's go ahead and increase maximum hull integrity. I have a feeling that that's also going to increase my threat score. We're up to 360 now. If we were like 330 or something earlier. Launch a torpedo to shatter the surface of the thing so we can please... Okay. It was thinking about it. Free morale just for curing some people? Hell yeah. Wow, you're dumb. Thank you for that. That makes me so happy. Pressing all of the wrong buttons. Mr. Paris, do you have the ability to actually be useful in combat by chance? You don't. Because only people who have that particular ability can. Okay. Destroy part of the station. Why? Why? Why are you doing this? What? Hello? Borg sphere. Screw it. This is for my own amusement, and also just to kind of see where we're at on this. I want to see where we're at on
Ability ready, Captain. Enemy shields destroyed, Captain.
all of the upgrades and stuff. See how quickly they die.
Moving to attack the port side, Captain. Enemy shields destroyed, Captain. Ability ready, Captain. Ability ready, Captain. Ability ready, Captain.
Hey bud, can you stay in range of the Borg sphere? He's got 1,000 health, so you gotta tick through a bunch of it. Can't really do that if you're consistently going out of range here.
Ability ready, Captain. Enemy shields destroyed, Captain. Moving to attack the app. Ability ready, Captain. Ability ready, Captain.
My god, they fire so fast now. Have a shuttle grab stuff. I'll do it. Whew. Whew. Do we need to upgrade anything? Okay, you're fully upgraded, so that's good. Alright, let's get the neurolytic pathogen. Yeah, you know what? I don't care. I don't. The neurolytic pathogen is synthesized and ready for delivery. This is where my story ends, Catherine, so yours can continue. Let's not waste time. Doctor, prepare the inoculation. Once the Queen begins assimilating me, the pathogen will spread through their network rapidly. That's your opening, Catherine. Don't you hesitate. I wouldn't dream of it. Good. Where's my shuttle? Janeway to shuttle bay, prepare for the Admiral's immediate departure. Priority 1. Get them home, Catherine, all of them. That's all that ever truly mattered. I will. Thank you for everything, for this chance. So, like, let's talk about, like, time for a moment. If a Catherine Janeway has to die in order to create this circumstance, wouldn't that imply that, like, every instance of things happening would require a Captain Janeway to die? So she'll always have to go back in the past and sacrifice herself to kill the Queen, right? Like, the current Captain Janeway would technically still have to do that, even though she's from a different timeline. Right? Like, isn't... I guess not? Perhaps not? No, she would, right? Like... Because, God, this is why time travel is annoying. Let's build another cutting beam control room real quick. And what this will do for me is it increases the energy. And so instead of spending energy on the, instead of spending energy on the disruptor when the shield's already down, I can swap it over to the other thing. Try to activate the station. Yippee! Yippee! Noon caller! Yippee! Oh, I'm not researching anything. No! When you do that, does it automatically give it to you, or does it increase it? And then you have to spend it. I didn't actually see. I wasn't looking. Beta launch available 3. The Borg. I made a repair unit. Alright. Let's do manual save. Starting this part will begin the final act of your journey. There is no turning back once you proceed. All other paths will be closed behind you. This is the endgame for Voyager. Advanced when ready. That's why it's called endgame. Reach your destination. Orders continue. Fleet is in position, Captain. We await your command. Plan has changed slightly, Mr. Rallick. We'll destroy the hub, but we have found a way to return home as well. I'll spare you the details. Understood. Either way, you have our full support, Captain. Rallick's a bro. I like him. The man's ride or die. Couldn't ask for anything better in a Borg. Progressing deeper into the nebula, Captain. Strange. No welcoming committee? My analysis indicates they are aware of our presence and are maintaining tactical distance. Undoubtedly a trap. As long as they're not actively engaging, we make way for the hub. The Queen must be expecting us. Mr. Rallick, be ready. Attack only on my command, and remain alert. Hub in sight, Captain, and oh no. The tactical cube is guarding the hub. Weapon systems charging. Captain Janeway. Captain Janeway. You returned to challenge us, and brought these malfunctions with you. I was, of course, expecting you. Surprised to find me in good health? The Admiral's pathetic attempt was as transparent as it was futile. She proved quite compliant once assimilated. You'll pay, Queen. You will soon join the Admiral. You and all Voyager. Tactical cube has engaged combat protocols. She's taken the bait. Good. Now we survive until the pathogen takes effect. Battle stations. Huh.
What are your orders, Captain?
That's a... Well... I don't know about these... These little doohickeys, I'm pretty sure, are not things that exist on normal tactical cube models, as far as I'm aware. I don't think I've ever seen these before. But aside from that, this is a nice looking tactical cube model, for the most part. That one's a little weird though. I don't know how I feel about that. Unless that's supposed to be like a specific thing for the Borg Queen, which actually it might be, because I think we saw a tactical cube earlier, didn't we? Didn't have that?
Ready, Captain.
I apologize for this profusely. I apologize for this very profusely. This is my fault. I'm an idiot. So the reason I just did that was because I made a critical error. I was supposed to wait 3 cycles before we started this. So again, I sincerely apologize. That was a mistake on my part. I done messed up a little bit. Also, we're gonna put her Chakotay on that. We don't need him on the mess hall right now. So very, very sorry about that one. That was a false start. We're gonna skip through again real quick. I set that up specifically because I knew we were going to be fighting a Borg ship and it was going to have like 2,000 hull and I was going to have to chunk through it real quick. I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to actually let it upgrade properly. My bad. Alright, now we'll kill the Borg.
Captain. Ability ready, Captain.
Nope, still not that close actually. 3,000... God, it's so big. Look at it. Oh, interesting.
Moving to attack the front.
Nice. Okay.
Ability ready, Captain.
Interesting that she's like repeatedly doing her shield.
Enemy shields destroyed. Ability ready, Captain.
We have all these torpedoes, we might as well use them. It's the end of the game. This isn't Final Fantasy, I'm not just gonna hold on to my health potions until the end. We're actually gonna fire some of those torpedoes. Arg! What have you done to us? Must be something you assimilated. Nice, Janeway. Well done. Impossible. A neurolytic pathogen? Captain, the hub's primary energy signature is rapidly falling. Now, if you'll excuse us, Your Majesty, it's time to go home. You will not escape. The collective will follow. All will be assimilated. Your world will be ours. That's going to be difficult without a transwarp hub. Ooh. Helm full impulse. Ready torpedoes. Let's blow this damn thing. Aye, Captain. Yippee. I'm sorry, where was Rallick in all of this, by the way? He was supposed to help us. Where was he in this? Look at, there it is, it's Earth. We did it, we actually did it. We're home, finally. Can you believe it? Earth. Oh wow, it looks even more beautiful than I remember. Huh, it's smaller than I imagined, but so vibrant. You know what? Never mind. The vision, I remember it, a fleeting image from childhood. I can't believe we actually pulled it off. After everything, we actually did it. Finally, the Alpha Quadrant. My triumphant return will undoubtedly usher in a new era of medical excellence. The accolades will be well deserved. Broadway will never be the same when you arrive. It's everything we fought for, isn't it? Every single challenge, every sacrifice, it all led us to this moment. We did it together. Yay! Alright everyone, if you'll indulge your captain for one final moment before we begin our journey home. The crew we became... 7 years ago, Starfleet and Maquis became one crew, forging a bond stronger than any uniform, finding family and facing every challenge together. To see all your faces, safe, finally home, that's the culmination of every sacrifice, every bond. Our family is whole. The long wait is over. Now let's find our friends, our families, and finally live the lives we fought so hard to reclaim. Helm, set one final course to Earth. Let Starfleet know Voyager's home. Admiral's log, Captain Catherine Janeway. Oh god, the year's 2385, 7 years have passed since Voyager's return, and I find myself compelled to record a final reflection on a journey that's forged us all. The shimmering view of Earth was the sight we had earned not just by enduring the Delta Quadrant, but by dismantling the Borg's greatest weapon. Through every impossible choice, every sacrifice, we remained true to who we were and what we stood for. We were finally truly home. Starfleet's port was a whirlwind of emotion. My crew, my family, reunited with their loved ones. Tears and laughter filled the air, a moment of pure joy and renewal after years apart. Later, in a hall filled with family and friends who never gave up hope, we stood honored, medals shone, and applause echoed around us. I, too, was promoted to Admiral. My future self had been right. Repeatedly thwarting the Borg Queen does indeed does wonders for your resume. Now, as the dust settled, I reflect on what came next for my extraordinary crew. You just had to get one last one in on me, didn't you? You need to add like 30 seconds to every one of them. Well, not 30 seconds. You need to add like 10 seconds minimum to every single one of those lines. Not just for like people like me who have to read the poor thing, but just in general, like if someone's a slow reader, they're gonna struggle with that one. That's all I'm gonna say. From Collective to Command, after our return, Starfleet initially harbored reservations against Seven due to her Borg past. However, seeing her undeniable genius and genuine desire to help and learn, Starfleet quickly overcame its concerns. I'm glad that she was able to get over Starfleet's inherent racism towards everyone who's basically not human. Yeah, I said it. I'm willing to say it. We all know it. If you're not like strictly human-esque humanoid, right? If you got like weird stuff going on, I'm just saying. I've seen Deep Space Nine. I've seen Voyager. I know how they roll. Even TNG, a little bit, a little bit racist. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. However, seeing her, I already read that. Seven quickly became Starfleet's primary strategist against the Borg, spearheading the anti-Borg Tactical Analysis Division, developing countermeasures and leading drone reclamation. It brings me great joy to see her so fully integrated on Earth, her individuality flourishing with every new experience. She is a living testament to what a second chance can truly create. And also my boy Rallick's out there, probably creating a free Borg collective. Good for him. Would have been nice if he had helped us fight the Queen's tactical cube, but whatever. Captain of the Protostar. With the Maquis pardon, Chakotay was promoted to captain, commanding the experimental USS Protostar. His mission to fix issues from Voyager His mission to fix issues from Voyager's journey led to a temporal displacement for 10 subjective years. He eventually returned, reuniting with me as I commanded Voyager A to rescue him. Our bond remains unwavering. He's a testament to our resilience and keeps my duties as Admiral interesting. Harry Kim's unwavering Starfleet ideals and relentless perseverance finally broke the mold. After years as the universe's most dedicated ensign, his unique experience propelled him through the ranks. In just 7 years, he achieved his dream, commanding his own Intrepid-class vessel. Watching the eager ensign I once guided, now in command, fills me with immense pride. Maverick made master, Tom's exceptional piloting skills made him Starfleet's go-to test pilot and instructor for extreme maneuvers. He regularly visits Starfleet facilities, sharing tales of our Delta Quadrant experiences. Tom clearly enjoys the attention, but I couldn't be prouder of the disciplined pilot he became. And no, he never reached Warp 10 or turned into a salamander again. Technically, he didn't do that in this series, in this game either, I would like to point out. At least I don't recall that ever happening to us. I wonder how him and Janeway's kids are doing these days. Like, do they become like intelligent salamanders? Do they like build a civilization of like weird? Anyways, advocate and artist. After her return, the Doctor became a Federation citizen, immediately resigning to champion holographic rights, and won. Years later, he returned to serve as Chief Medical Officer, treated as an equal among his biological colleagues. Oh, and he discovered a talent for opera, much to the delight and occasional dismay of Starfleet Medical. Told you, Broadway's gonna have to watch out. B'Elanna's half-human lectures at Starfleet Academy, teaching advanced engineering. Seeing her prepare young engineers for deep space command beyond just technical skills brings me pride. Tuvix became a celebrated first contact specialist and xenolinguist, bridging diverse species. My past reservations faded. Seeing him unify others, I now know that letting him live was the right path. What a wild line. I'm sorry. What a wild line to write. I now know that letting him live was the right path. And the context, like, that's just a wild way to phrase that. It's not like, you know, and I'm glad I made the decision, you know, but I don't know. I guess however you phrase that, it's going to be a little dicey, but it's just, it's like, I'm glad I let him live. Like, okay, all right, Janeway. Okay. One became pivotal in the Federation's private scientific sector. I'm sorry, what? The private scientific sector of the Federation. The Borg drone with technology from like 300 years in the future? Though Starfleet hesitated to integrate him at first, his unique makeup drove groundbreaking AI and interspecies communication research. Oh no. Oh no. I made a mistake by saving him. He's living proof that individuality thrives, filling me with immense hope for his potential beyond Starfleet. Oh god. Oh boy. Pelk established a profitable private enterprise on a Federation colony, specializing in hazardous waste disposal. Hey, good for you, man. Good for you. It's a testament to how even unlikely skills from the Delta Quadrant find valuable application in a new life. Good for you, man. Marla Gilmore joined Starfleet R&D's ethical oversight, dedicated to preventing tech misuse. It's her personal atonement for the Equinox tragedy. Seeing her channel her past into crucial vigilance fills me with profound respect. Hey, good for you, kid. Icheb, who was with us for all of about 30 minutes in the context of this game, dedicates his life to helping other ex-Borg, particularly young drones, guiding their difficult path back to individuality. So he became a guidance counselor for immature Borg drones. Good for him, I guess. Well, not I guess, no, good for him, just in general. Seeing him nurture these individualities is profoundly moving. The hub's destruction was a blow to the collective, but a heavy blow to Ralik's rebellion as well. Aww. First, we only heard from them on occasion, a small voice in the vastness of space. Now that voice has become a chorus. Yay? We hear of their successes, their victories, and the hope they brought to the galaxy, but a small part of me will always wonder, could we have done more? I don't know, could we have? Destroy the Transwarp hub and get the Voyager back home, just like in Just like I remembered it. Canon ending, basically. They say the journey matters more than the destination. For Voyager, an odyssey of family and sacrifice, this was profoundly true. We honor those who gave everything for this journey. Their names may now be carved in stone. But their legacy, an eternal flame of courage and sacrifice, lives on in the heart of every soul who returned home, always. Yet even now, I wonder if I could turn back time, make different choices, could I have saved even... Excuse me, sorry. If I could turn back time, make different choices, could I have... What is wrong with me today? Could I have saved more of those we lost? I may never know. But standing here on solid ground, my crew's safe. I find quite peace in what we accomplished. And blood. Alright, maybe. Alright, let me bust out... No, is there a way for me to decouple that? There we go. There we go. Let's do this. Application audio window capture. No, not that. I need the one that's untitled. Notepad untitled. There we go. I need to move that. Sir? Why can't I move this? Am I being trolled right now? Oh, it's locked. Duh. Why did I lock that? What a weird thing to do. I'm gonna lock it again just to troll myself in the future. If I had to deal with it, then the future may allow to deal with it. Oh, I can't have like music or anything if I do this. Hang on, well, do I have a solution to this? It would be awkward to sit here in silence for the next like 30 minutes while I review. One moment. I think I have a thing for this. Actually, I wonder if they publish the theme on like YouTube or something. One moment. Voyager Across the Unknown theme. This is somebody else's thing. Is this correct? We'll go with that. Because the problem is I can't, because it mutes audio every time I deselect it. If I have this selected, then I can't do anything. So we'll temporarily turn on the rare instance of me allowing desktop audio to exist. Okay. And hopefully this video doesn't do anything weird, play any strange audio. Alright, Voyager Across the Unknown. I have a feeling that the typing sounds are going to be really loud. Okay, so presentation, good. So I like the presentation of the game. Graphically, it looks nice. The music's fine. It technically does have licensed music in it, but if you have the streamer mode on, it disables the main Voyager theme, which is unfortunate because it is, again, the best Star Trek theme. So if someone else plays this game on their own and they're not having to worry about copyright stuff, you're gonna have a vastly better time just because the Star Trek Voyager theme is genuinely that good. It's like the widely agreed upon like best theme. It's just really good. The person who made it did a fantastic job. Some of the ship models are not my cup of tea in terms of some of their like greebling and little extra bits and bobs. Like I mentioned this with the Borg Queen there at the end that had that weird cylinders, like the triple sets of cylinders on the corners of their tactical cube. Not a fan of whatever that was supposed to be, but like other than that and the Borg sphere being like the height on the greebling and the armor plating and stuff being like drastically altered from like how the sphere normally looks in canon, it's still a good model. They're still better at 3D modeling than I am. Like I'm not very good at it, and so I mean respect to their work. I'm not gonna say it's bad. It's just like I'm just kind of, in terms of their personal approach to and their interpretation of the models, I'm not like I'm like 7 out of 10 there for me personally, but it's still a good model. I don't want there to be an impression that I think they're bad. Like, they're good models. I wouldn't do that personally. That's my thought. Good god models. Good modeling, graphics, etc. So nothing there was distracting. So I've only done one playthrough, so it's a little bit hard for me to discuss like alternate reality, like narrative stuff. One of the things that I complained about throughout this run was that when you make choices regarding heroes, hero character deviations are underwhelming. So one of the issues that I kept having, and I discussed this here at the end, especially with like Tuvix and B'Elanna, is if you have a main character who becomes a different kind of character. So, for example, Tuvix is a consolidation of Neelix and Tuvok. Neelix and Tuvok are both extremely important characters to Voyager. They are the mainest of main cast members, right? Like, they are genuinely two of the most important series characters. So, for those characters to be consolidated, narratively, I would hope that the Tuvix character would actually fulfill a role in the narrative. Instead, what happens is anytime you have a deviation from a main cast member, they basically just cease existing. And they're replaced by a dummy character who effectively is just that character with a different name and a different portrait, who is fulfilling the same role, but doesn't represent that character, right? It's like, it's sort of like, you know, I almost want to say like replacing the main character of Pokemon with a Ditto representation that's like does the same stuff, but it's not actually him, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm struggling for a comparison or a metaphor here, but like it makes, from that moment on, when you lose that character and they become another character, it starts to kind of eat away at the quality of the narratives, in my opinion, because you no longer get those good character moments. You no longer, and it also locks you out of a lot of choices. So whenever Tuvok is supposed to do something, I can no longer make a choice that would require Tuvok to be in the crew, because Tuvok is quote unquote dead, but he's not dead. He's still alive. He just has a different name now, and he's consolidated with Neelix. And it creates this weird feeling of you kind of being punished for deviating from the canon, despite the fact that this is supposed to be a game where you deviate from the canon so that you can play Voyager your own way. I did kind of keep this playthrough very canon-esque with some more smaller deviations, but things like the Tuvix bit that was one of the decisions that I had already made ahead of time, where it's like, well, if, you know, as far as deviations go, like, we have to do this to see what happens, and what happens is nothing, basically. And speaking bluntly, that's kind of a huge problem, I would say, because that's a pretty big part of the game, is whether or not you actually get to have that experience of having these different characters being able to interact with them. The Tuvix line there at the end with Janeway, or Admiral Janeway, was like the only thing that Tuvix said the entire game since he was birthed in a transporter accident. So that's really disappointing. Same with the human B'Elanna. Human B'Elanna basically just doesn't exist. Once you get her, she just is there as technically a hero character, and just don't worry about it. So that's pretty disappointing. If there was one thing that I would really like to see them do as like content additions to this game, if they decide to do any further support and they decide to do any expansions of this game, probably the number one thing would be to rectify this particular issue to make sure that when you're creating these narrative deviations from the canon, you are actually supplementing them with the proper dialogues and interactions for characters which are replacing and reprising the roles of other characters. If Neelix is going to say something, it shouldn't be the not Neelix character. What was his name? Like Jabane or something like that, I think. It shouldn't be him. It should be Tuvix who's doing that. Tuvix should be saying the lines that are given by Neelix. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can alter them a little bit to be a little bit more semi-logical, right? Same thing with Tuvok. I mean, and again, what I'm talking about is a lot of work. I'm not going to say it's not, right? It requires effort on the part of the developers to do this. But at the same time, my problem is that's what the game is supposed to be, as far as I'm aware. That was my impression of what the game was supposed to be. It was basically, and even the endgame screen kind of says that, right? I realize now that the music stopped and I need to restart it because we're kludging together an ending here. Yet even now I wonder if I could turn back time and make different choices, could I have, done this and that, right? Even the endgame screen implies that, like, yeah, this game is kind of about seeing some of the different narrative choices that you could make in Star Trek Voyager and seeing what the consequences are. Problem is, the consequences are nothing happens because we didn't write a branching narrative to determine what should happen when that happens. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. So if they were going to do anything, that I think should be like the number one priority for post-game support, post-launch support, is this issue needs to be addressed to some degree. And result in characters dying even when they're not truly dead. Major issue. So that was my big issue with the narrative. Let's do line break there. Lots of several major events in Voy not shown. Unsure if I missed them somehow though, but I don't believe that to be the case. So the other thing is, there were a lot of things that happened in Voyager that in some cases even get directly referenced. Like I mentioned the lizard thing. I don't recall there ever being an instance of the lizard event actually even occurring in the first place, and it gets referenced, I think, twice, maybe even 3 times. I think it was twice that the lizard thing got mentioned. That's kind of like a famous Voyager episode, is sort of like one of the most absurd ones. It's one of those things that sticks around in the minds of people who've seen Voyager because it's just so ridiculous. So that gets referenced multiple times in the writing, but it doesn't actually happen in the game. I don't know if that was an RNG thing and it can happen, but I just missed it. Similarly, like the whole the Delta Flyer never happens as far as I'm aware. You just kind of have the Delta Flyer from the get-go because shuttles also don't really play any narrative role in the game. They're just kind of there as like a thing. It's one of those things where it kind of feels weird because the Delta Flyer, I think, is actually often used to do combat alongside the Voyager because it's effectively like a small starship of its own. So it has some combat capabilities, if I remember correctly, and sometimes fights alongside the Voyager in the series. I believe that that's true. Like I said, it has been like a year or 2 since I've seen it, but I'm fairly certain that that's accurate. So it would have been nice if that had been a thing that had occurred. I would have liked to have seen that. You know, no Delta Flyer stuff. And that could have been an option for you to have, like, you know, a shuttle bay upgrade that allows you to have like a companion ship to fight alongside you kind of thing, just to provide you like a little bit of extra firepower. That would have been kind of a nice thing. Rallic doesn't even help you with the final boss fight, even though he's supposed to. I'm also going to throw in here, you go through all that trouble to, it's not that much trouble, but you go through the effort of like helping the free Borg, and then at the end, Rallic is like, yeah, we're going to help you with the transport hub and fighting the Borg Queen. And then you fight the Borg Queen, nowhere to be found. Doesn't help you prepare either. And I mentioned that one thing with the that last little bit of Borg tech that you needed to get so you can make the neurolytic pathogen. If you have Rallic on your side, he should probably just like give it to you instead of you needing to go salvage it from a Borg cube. It's like, it's kind of weird. It's like, what is your purpose? Why are you here? Now, to be fair, and I do want to state this, it's possible that Rallic has more of a purpose if I'm able to actually do his choices in preparation for the final confrontation. I was not able to do that because I did not have enough combat power, nor did I have enough Borg drones, nor did I have enough science, apparently, which was shocking to me because I had a pretty stacked playthrough where I basically had, I was just throwing stuff at the wind towards the end in terms of like technology and all that stuff. I was just looking for excuses to research things because I was like, it was, I mean, we had solved the game pretty handily by that point. So it would have been nice if he had been there to help us, but it might have been different from the other choices. It could be different with his options, though. Could be different with his options, though. So I'll accept that that could have been an issue that's present with the particular way I did the playthrough. It stopped again. I'm gonna restart it. Sorry. I don't play with do stupid stuff. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. So, what else? What other issues did I have with the narrative? I will say, writing was fine. Felt sufficiently Voyager. Felt sufficiently Voyager, I think is a good... Whoops, don't do that. Oh, what did I just... Okay, that's fine. I don't mind that being seen. Is there any other stupid stuff in here that I need to worry about? Okay. So, yeah, the save thing, I had to make sure that there was no like personal information in there, and there wasn't. Just like old folders and stuff from things that I used to do once upon a time but not do anymore. What else is there? Yeah, okay, so the writing was fine. It felt sufficiently Voyager-esque as far as I'm concerned. It had the typical Voyager quips. It felt fairly appropriate to the series. I don't really have any complaints there. I don't have anything that I think like could have been better per se. Some of the one-liners were kind of, I don't know, man. But at the same time, that's I think also true of the series too, so it's not like a criticism against the game. It's just kind of funny. It's like, I don't know, man. You could have done better than that. That would be as much of a criticism of Voyager as it would be the game. That's not something that I think the developers own. That's just more of a, you know, it being how it was. Voyager is kind of considered to be sort of, it's not the favored child of the franchise. Sort of a more of a herald of things to come when you consider things like Enterprise afterwards, which is also like okay. Voyager's better than Enterprise in my opinion. I don't want to get too like, you know, into the weeds of the series itself, or sorry, the franchise itself. But like Voyager's just okay, kind of. It has some good points, it has some bad points. For better or worse, if you make a game that's based on Voyager, it's going to have those issues too. But the quips are okay, they're fine. Let me... what else? Lots of opportunities to pick up new hero characters, some interesting deviations. Deviations feeding new tech. And then we're going to try to push on the gameplay a little bit here. So there were a lot of, and I commented on this through the playthrough, there were obviously a lot of hero characters that I could have gotten but did not get. And I can see that from the trait options in the away team missions, that there were several traits that I didn't have access to, and those are racial traits. There were stuff like, you know, having a Vidian guy and stuff like that. So obviously there were a lot of hero characters that I could have gotten access to, but for whatever reason wasn't. I don't know how I missed those characters, because I did the plot stuff for them, but somehow I missed them. So there was some special choice in and around there that I must not have picked that resulted in me not getting them. Yeah, and a lot of those deviations and choices, or helping certain people, yada yada, you get access to new technology, and that can be extremely useful for giving you, in a lot of cases, 100% success chances on several like events and choices. So you're not as beholden to RNG if you have something like, was it like the Vidian medical bay or whatever? You have that, it gives you like a dozen choices where you get 100% or near 100% success rate for simply having done that thing and gotten that item. Otherwise, they're not super consequential narratively. If you have any of those things, it's mostly just like it gives you easy ways to get through decisions. Survival elements are fine. Fine, played on normal difficulty. So the run was on normal difficulty. The survival elements are okay. Quickly become near irrelevant once you get going. Sorry, once you reach a certain... Once you attain certain once you quickly quickly snowballs into near irrelevant relevance with tech, or with going into the mid game. So one thing I will say, from the perspective of normal difficulty, you do kind of snowball really quickly as you're getting out of the early like tutorial sections of the game, as you're getting out of the Kazon areas. You very quickly start to snowball into the survival elements being pretty irrelevant. I ironically, or perhaps not ironically, depending on whether this was intentional by the developers, it actually mirrors what happens in Voyager anyways, where it kind of feels like those survival elements are also sort of irrelevant for them as well. Once they get out of that initial hump of being in like Kazon territory and having to fix the ship up, once they do that, like it's kind of referenced as being occasionally a problem, but for the most part, it's not really an issue anymore. After a certain point, it sort of stops mattering. You know, like I was just holding X to run through cycles to do things at the very end there, because I could just do that. There were several times over the past like 3 or 4 sessions where I was occasionally just kind of chilling and doing that. Frankly speaking, I probably could have knocked 1 or 2 sessions off of this game if I had been a little bit more quick. I just would have had less tech at the end, which I guess wouldn't have mattered. Well, it might have mattered a little bit, but I also could have just held X and just pushed through it and it not mattered. So, I don't know if that's an issue with like improper progression scaling or something like that, or if that's what was intended, or if that's just a matter of the difficulty, but it felt a little uneven in that regard, where you pretty much you hit a point where, especially with deuterium, when you're able to collect a lot of deuterium, and it no longer matters at any point how much power you're using or any of that stuff. Like, as long as you're keeping your upgrades consistent with your warp drive and you're being able to do that, you can honestly just sort of push through whatever issues you have in terms of creating your ship and putting everything together. It very quickly starts to become a non-issue. Ship combat, a little bit glitchy sometimes with improper ranging. Weak prioritization of rotating shields, and issues with I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. And issues with having allies in combat. So one of the things that I observed repeatedly, especially later into the game with ship combat, is that the pilotage of the ship, which I have no control over, it's completely automatic. It's effectively an auto battler where I give directives to the pilot to do certain things. He just sort of, Tom just does whatever he wants. And some of that whatever he wants is like flying in circles. Just flying in circles repeatedly as like some kind of weird way to sort of maintain what part of the enemy ship he's trying to keep in contact with. If you say that like, oh, I lost my front shield, I need you to protect it, they'll just won't do that sometimes. They'll do other things instead. You can only give an attack order or a defend order, right? And they seem to supersede one another, which kind of also creates some weird situations. So I can't like say, hey, attack this side of their ship, but also defend this side of our ship. It's just like you either do one of those two things and hope that it works out, I guess. And then, yeah, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. Like, I'm just going to spin in circles. It's funny, but it's also a little ridiculous. And then if you have an ally in combat, especially like a really big ally, like the Borg spheres and stuff, that the combat seems to break and the ships no longer seem to know how to maneuver correctly. The Voyager just does weird stuff and it doesn't seem to work terribly well at that point. That was actually a pretty big problem with the spheres, where it was causing weird issues with the it was causing really weird issues with doing joint battles with Rallick's Borg Sphere allies. So that was not the best. Let's see. Aside from that, a good array of combat modules and upgrades. Progression lasts throughout the game, but usefulness of upgrades starts to wane. Okay, so they had a lot of different combat modules you could access to, a lot of upgrades that you could get as like special upgrades through various technologies. My shield disruptor module had 2 upgrades that I didn't even know what they were because I never triggered them somehow. Progression lasts throughout the entire game because even at the end there was still plenty of technology that I could have researched, and that was with me generally speaking running every sector until I started to get negative morale. I could have pushed some of them a lot further and gotten, you know, probably like 60 to 90 more cycles out of the game in some cases. Probably even a lot more than that, to be honest, and had a lot more tech level as a result. However, whether or not that ends up being useful is another matter entirely. Because, speaking frankly, you could probably beat the game with like a level 1 hole cutter compared to a level 3 hole cutter, but it would take a lot longer. As long as you have, you know, a ship that can actually do enough damage to destroy the subsystems of your enemy so that they can't shoot back at you. Like, even starting in the mid-game, there was a point where it's like, I'm no longer afraid to do combat because I'm just going to kill everything that I fight. Whereas in the early game and in the early mid-game, there were a lot of combat scenarios where I would just completely get rolled and there was nothing I can do about it. But by the time you hit Borg territory, it's like, oh, Borg tactical cube? Yeah, let me just, yeah, you're dead now. Okay, bye-bye. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I just disabled your warp core. See ya. Also, the cloaking device, I'm going to give a line for this one. Cloaking device, useless in combat. Sad face. The cloaking device is not used in combat, and that makes me a little sad, because it would have been cool if you could have cloaked your ship to use it to, like, flank an enemy or something. To, you know, just to, like, cloak your ship for, like, 10, 15, 20 seconds or whatever, and be able to use that and tell your ship to move to a different position to fire at them without, like, crossing through some of the other firing arcs of enemy ships. There are a lot of things the cloaking device could have been used for in combat as a tool to do things other than just retreat. Or to avoid getting into combat, like, you know, towards the end where I was like, we're not going to fight any Borg, we're just pushing towards the end here, kind of thing. Or, oh, there's 2 Borg probes, I don't feel like fighting for 30 minutes. And, you know, having to do a bunch of repairs afterwards and getting very little out of it. So I'm going to cloak device and just ignore this fight. The cloaking device is useful on, like, the map layer, but it has no usefulness in combat other than a way to, like, escape, which you could have just, in a lot of cases, could have just done at the very get-go. So that's kind of disappointing because the cloaking device is a combat tool in the series. You cloak to, you know, basically do ambushes mid-combat. So that you could, like, come out of cloak behind an enemy and start shooting into their engines and stuff like that. Would have liked to have seen that. Probably wouldn't even have been that hard to implement. I can't imagine it would have been super hard to put that in the game, to be honest. Because, yeah, it should have been able to be done. I mean, it would take time, I'm not going to deny that, but it would have been like, it's, you know, like a full mechanic or anything. You just say, like, oh, press the button, the shaders, you get the, like, the cloaking shader, and it becomes like it becomes like a distortion, see-through distortion, and then you can't attack for however long, and they can't attack you for however long. It's not like there's like a like any like line of sight or like detection mechanics in the game or anything. It's just an auto battler. So you just say, you know, oh, I put this, you know, this shading effect on, and then there's, you know, they can attack you and you can attack them, and that's it, kind of thing. So it wouldn't have been that hard to implement a cloaking effect for combat either, as far as I'm concerned. I can't imagine how there would have been. Let's see, is there anything else to say about gameplay? It's a bit simplistic, but I don't think that it's gameplay overall is fairly in line with other titles like like Ixion, with other survival narrative games like Ixion. Okay, so if you've never played Ixion, Ixion's a survival game where you have a spaceship and you have to do basically what you're doing in this game, right? There's a lot of elements in Ixion that are very familiar for this game, where you're building stuff on a starship and you have to survive, but there's no combat in Ixion is the thing. This game is very familiar to these kinds of survival narrative games, which is a genre that's really started to prop up more and more, especially since like Frostpunk came out initially and was wildly successful. There have been a lot of, I mean, there have been other games that have done this kind of thing, but I would say that Frostpunk really, I would say, put this sort of subgenre on the map of showing that, like, yeah, you can have really, really interesting games where they're narrative driven, but they have survival elements to them, and they're not really sandboxy, but they're like pseudo sandboxy in a way. You can have like a narrative driven city builder game. You can do, you know, whatever. This has a lot of those elements of those games. It's part and parcel for things like what happens in Ixion and other games like it. It's pretty much in line with what happens in those. So I don't really have much to say in that regard. I think that what they did's fine here. I don't really have any like largely negative points in terms of the actual fundamentals of the game. It's fine. It's all in service of narrative. The narrative is the key feature of this game, in my opinion, and the narrative was okay. As I said before, there are a lot of things that could have been better about the narrative in this game in terms of having better deviational choices, in terms of making sure that various other characters have a role in the narrative when they're supposed to. And that's a problem. But other than that, like, fine, okay, whatever. The gameplay itself is fine. It's fairly indicative of what you expect to see in this genre, and I don't really have much to say about it. Other than it's a little too easy, but I was on normal difficulty for this run, so the most difficult difficulty might have been a little bit different. RNG could be pretty brutal at times. Getting XCOM'd, but arguably that was a good thing. Now I was trying to avoid save scamming. There were a couple things where I went back and I redid certain chapters mostly just because I wanted to see the implications of certain decisions, not so much so that I could avoid certain things, other than that time when I lost like an entire crew of people. Like 3 heroes simultaneously. I was like, but the other thing there wasn't really necessarily to save those people, but also because it meant that I wasn't going to get like Icheb and stuff like that. Actually, Icheb shows up for like 30 minutes. That reminds me, backtracking to the narrative points real quick. Can we talk about the fact that you unlock Icheb, like, at the sector before the end of the game? Which is like, he's actually a pretty, okay. Icheb's actually a pretty important character in Voyager. He is shown prominently towards the end of the series as this character who does a lot. He's a very important character for Seven, and he has a lot of good relationships with some of the other characters like Chakotay and, you know, Janeway and stuff like that. Like, he's a good character. I like him. You know, like, Icheb was cool. He was a good addition to the series, I would say, right? And the poor guy gets shafted. He gets shafted so hard in this game because you get him like right before you hit endgame, and it's like, guys, how could you do this to the poor man? I like Icheb's cool. He's about as cool as like a young character can be. You know, he's a nice guy. He's respectable for the most part, as far as I remember. Anyways, I remember him being a nice kid. I kind of feel bad that he got shafted in this game just because his, like, that event change should have occurred at least one sector prior to when it actually occurred, in my opinion. That's what I'm gonna say. I think that side quest that gives you the option to have Icheb probably should have occurred a full sector earlier, if not maybe even two. So that's what I'm going to say on that. The RNG could be pretty brutal at times, but I kind of liked that aspect of it. For the most part, the RNG was working for me though, so I might feel very differently if I was getting constantly punished. But I was getting punished a little bit by RNG, especially early in the game. Canonical, that reminds me, canonical levels of shuttle loss. Where's my end game statistics screen? Exclamation point, question mark. Yeah, so there, you can get XCOM'd in this game pretty hard. I think that if you roll with the punches in most cases, except for like really, really bad ones, it made for some funny and interesting deviations as well. For example, you can get the Romulan who comes through the wormhole that's too small and too unstable for you to actually like go through the wormhole to the Alpha Quadrant. But there's a wormhole to the Alpha Quadrant earlier in the game where you talk to a Romulan guy who happens to be on the other side of it. Also, it's a temporal wormhole, so it goes to the past or whatever. So that also created some complications there. Evidently, because you can transport him over to your ship, there's a possibility for you to keep him as a hero. Although I'm sure he has no narrative implication, is the theme that I'm picking up from the series. And it would have been cool if I could have actually kept him, but I didn't. He ended up dying. And I'm okay with that. That's kind of a cute deviation. It doesn't really have any narrative impact overall, but it's unfortunate that you don't get to have that sorry. It was unfortunate that it happened. It was kind of a minor thing, but it was cool that there were like 3 different events that could have occurred within that side story. One where you do the canonical result, which is he gets sent back to a ship and they send a message to Starfleet, you know, hey, we're still alive out here. So by the way, here's some message, you know, here's some commentary from us. Or he dies, which is what ends up happening for my run. Or you even get to keep him as a hero, which didn't happen in my run, and I wish it did. And then there's also, because he has a Romulan trait, there were several instances where a Romulan trait could have been used. So that would have been cool. So the RNG is fine. It creates some funny things. As a result of the RNG, I was on track with canonical levels of shuttle losses. Again, I forgot what the exact count is, but there was like 17 shuttles that get destroyed in Voyager. And I probably lost like 10, if I had to guess. So we were doing a little bit better than the Voyager in that regard, but man, I was less than thrilled about the number of shuttles I lost. No in-game statistics screen. I don't know how many shuttles I lost. Sure would be great to know. How many torpedoes did I fire? How many heroes did I lose? Come on, guys. You gotta tell me this kind of thing. You can't have a game like this and not have an in-game statistics screen. I know you were tracking some of this information. Because there's supposed to be, I'm pretty sure there's a achievement related to torpedo usage. In progress. Okay, only 38, right? Fire 38 torpedoes in a single playthrough, right? Because the Voyager, there's a line where we only have like 38 torpedoes or whatever. Build 100 rooms. Upgrade your hull to max capacity. I'm sorry, unlock who is a hero? That should be a hidden one, probably. All the rooms in the combat tab built at the same time. Take control of the transport hub. Telic or more Arcturus. What? Really? Herogen? Interesting. Yeah, I guess there was a Herogen guy. There's 7 hidden achievements. Interesting. Complete an away mission with less than the needed heroes. Interesting. I'm not going to say who this, like, there's an achievement in here for a particular person who I'm shocked could actually be a hero. I was shocked that that is even remotely an option. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's in the achievement list. It's not hidden for some reason. It probably should be. If for any reason the developers see this, and you know what I'm talking about, you should consider making that a hidden achievement. I'm just throwing that out there. Reconsider that one. That one feels like a pretty big spoiler. A little bit. Not like hugely a spoiler, but I would never have expected that. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. No voice acting. Sad face. Probably my biggest criticism of this game, if I have to give one, is that I don't like that there's no voice acting because my throat is tired. There's a reason why I was doing like 2 to 4 hour sessions of this and not like 6 to 8 or something. I could do longer runs of this, but I'm spending so much time talking that my throat is getting tired. My throat's already tired for doing 2. There's a reason also why I was striping this like every other day as opposed to doing this like multiple days in a row. I could have, but I was choosing not to because I wanted to be able to speak and continue to have the ability to speak. So this is a particular issue for, you know, this context of play. Though if you were like playing as a family or something and you have people reading it out or whatever, you know, some you know, weird edge case like that also kind of start to stack up as a problem for people like that too. It's one of those things where, again, and I ranted about this I think 2 episodes ago. I think on session 5, I think I did a rant about this. It might have even been earlier actually, but sound-alikes, even sound-alikes, would have been great to have, even if it was offered as a DLC, although it's one of those things where post-game support's easier to do that kind of stuff for than pre-game support for like money reasons, obviously, because hiring voice actors, even sound-alikes and stuff, is probably not that cheap. To be honest, I'm going to be blunt. I know it would have reflected poorly on the product, and I have no right to say this. I would have taken random dudes in the office giving line deliveries if it meant that I didn't have to speak for like 8 hours. That's a selfish thing for me to say. I totally acknowledge that, but man, I'm so tired of talking. I'm so tired. I would like to see this game get some sound-alike voice support after the fact. I don't know how successful it was. Probably not successful enough to justify doing, but it would have been nice. Overall, I was pretty happy with the game. I had a good time. I like games like this. I think if you like narrative survival narrative, these kinds of like survival narrative driven games, choice deviations, and if you're a Star Trek fan and you kind of want to be like, haha, I decided to blow up this planet instead because I wanted to be evil Janeway or whatever. If you do stuff like that, I think you're probably gonna have a good time with it. I'll probably do on my own time a couple runs of this just for my own amusement, just to kind of see like what other things can happen. But like I said, I don't want to read. I'm so tired of reading. If I have to read more, I'll shrivel up and die at this point, which is why you're probably not going to see this come up again. If it got voice acting, that I might consider differently. But as far as like me playing this again live, I wouldn't expect that to happen, just because of the reading. Even if I'm skipping dialogue, I don't know. It would feel weird, right, to do another run of this and to like skip dialogue constantly, and then someone comes in and is like, "Wow, I don't know what's happening," kind of thing. I don't know. That's deviating from the review, but like, I don't know, like 8 out of 10 kind of. If I had to give it a score, I'd probably somewhere in the like 7 to 9 territory, depending on how you feel about it, right? 7.5, 8, somewhere around there, I would say. Not the best game I've ever played, far from the worst. It has a lot of narrative issues, I would say, in terms of just not being built out enough. There needs to be a lot more narrative content, in my opinion, based off of what I've seen. I could be wrong in some respects, but I'm definitely not when it comes to... Like, Tuvix is a major thing. I could have told you ahead of time, right? Like, a lot of people are probably going to check out Tuvix and be like, oh, what happens if I keep Tuvix, right? Like, that's like maybe like the #1 alternate history Voyager decision that people would theorize about, potentially. Be like, ooh, what if we kept Tuvix? Or, what if one stayed on the crew? To his credit, one played more of a role than I expected him to overall, for as short of a time as he was on the crew, which was cool to see. He had a lot more stuff going on with him than I expected, because I kind of expected him to not have anything. But yeah, the biggest pain point is probably that the having Tuvok and Neelix be quote unquote dead and eulogized, but yet they're still alive. They're right here. You can speak to them. They're one person now. Don't worry about it. They're not dead, right? That I would say is my biggest criticism. And since the game is so narrative focused, it's a pretty huge criticism when you keep that in mind. So aside from that, I do think it's a good game. I had fun with it. I will play it again at some point, if not even soon, potentially. Just not, for myself. Play for myself. So, that's pushing about 2 hours. I wasn't sure if we're going to do an alt reality thing. Maybe we still could. Maybe, let's say in-game restart sector. I don't know, maybe I'm good. Yeah, I was on normal difficulty. I'm pretty sure I was on survival. I said that I was on normal difficulty. I'm pretty sure I was on survival. Resources are scarce, combat is deadly, dialogues and away missions are more challenging. Homesickness is a major problem. This sounds like it just kind of ramps up the RNG, to be honest. I don't know if I would... Oh, you can't see this. I don't know if I necessarily consider that to be a good thing, to be honest. But yeah. I'm gonna call it there. So I thought it was a fun game. Would I recommend it if you're a Star Trek fan? I think if you've seen Voyager and you like Voyager and you think it would be fun to do this kind of stuff and you're into this style of game, I think you'd probably have fun with it. So I would say under those circumstances, I would recommend it. If you're not familiar with it, I don't know how much fun you'll have with it. That might get a little bit dicey. You could also just watch it and then play the game. I suspect that in any permutation of a person interfacing with this product, your enjoyment of it will probably be metered somewhat significantly by you not having any knowledge of Voyager. I think that's going to very dramatically and probably mostly negatively impact how you approach this. That being said, there's plenty of streaming services. I don't know, plenty. There's at least one streaming service that has Voyager on it, so you can watch Voyager. It's only like, what, 7 seasons and, you know, a couple hundred episodes or whatever. It's fine. But if you haven't seen Star Trek, I recommend it anyways. The original 3. And maybe I haven't watched TOS, to be honest. I'll be blunt on that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm good. But like TNG, DS9, Voyager, they're all good series. If you're into sci-fi stuff and you haven't seen them, you really should watch them at some point. DS9's the best though. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, so yeah, I mean that's the end across the unknown. If you were here and you were joining me for this, I appreciate it. If you want to see more, I occasionally will do stuff, just depending on whether I stream, just depends entirely on whether or not I have something that I want to. So the next thing that comes up for me is probably going to be an X4 video for Star Wars Inner Worlds on the continuation of my Quack Drive Yards runs. There's a blocker that I'm waiting to get through to see if this comes up as an option before I continue with like the content that I need to have recorded in order to be able to put that video together. There's still something that I need to do, and I'm waiting for potentially a mod thing to come for me to be able to do that in a way that is going to be more entertaining for both me and other people, probably. I'm waiting for that to... Probably by the end of this weekend, I'll know whether or not that'll be a thing. And if it doesn't end up being a thing, it'll probably just continue as is. If it does end up being a thing, then it'll be presumably quite a lot more interesting, and probably break my computer too, to be blunt. It's going to cause a lot of lag, but it's going to be far more interesting than what I'm dealing with right now. X4 is a little bit weird. It has an endgame problem where you kind of get to a state where you can sort of brutalize the AI if you have access to like shipyards and the ability to replenish them with resources fairly consistently. You can kind of break the game a little bit. So yeah, I've also considered maybe doing like a little chill sessions of like X4 9.0 beta, but I haven't quite decided yet. But I don't want to belabor this point too much longer. The other thing is the hardest difficulty of Death Stranding 2, I might do potentially a little bit of, probably not a full session, probably not a full playthrough of, but I might do some sessions just for my own amusement. Maybe, or I might just keep that for myself. Death Stranding 2 is one of those things where I wasn't going to do it. That one's for me, simply because the game came out like 6 months ago or whatever, and I don't want any spoilers. I don't want people being weird about it. So, but I'm gonna be blunt. There are some things I'm not willing to compromise. That's one of them. But in the future, it's possible that I'll do a run of it. Anyways, I'm gonna call that here. Thank you for joining me, and have a good one. And stay safe in Delta Quadrant.